Hello, everyone. If you're watching this, well, actually, I would guess listening to this, I would guess you have a general idea of who I am. But just in case, a really quick intro. Well, not really all that quick, but we're going to do this anyways. So, my name is Tyler Moore, and I've been a part of YouTube where this video resides for almost 11 years now. My first published video, a lyric video to Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name, which, no surprise, is actually my most popular video on YouTube, was published on January 5th, 2009. My second video was made public that same day, except it was a lyric video for an original song of mine, A Life That's Down. Now, throughout the years, I've published videos on various things, including my songs, covers of various songs, vlogs about various things, some political videos, and even some random things, like, for instance, the time Ryan, my brother, and I made a Star Wars video here on YouTube. Now, during this time, I've been active in the podcast spectrum, and this is where I'm going to kind of mention what I've done podcast-wise, but at the end of this, I'm going to be able to release a bit of information. Now, not everything is finalized. I'm still working on some details for it, but it's news for me that I'm excited to be able to announce. So I started with my podcast back in October of 2010, where I started a podcast called The Average Joe Sportscast. It was done on Skype with a couple people. It wound up becoming almost a panel show. And it was very different from what you would typically get. After that, I went to do a Mets podcast called the Mets Madness Podcast, which later became known as the Amazing Podcast, but that name really never caught on, and we always stuck with Mets Madness. That was done with a good friend from Twitter named Brandon Butler. Even though we finished it after the Mets season had started, in which was the 2012 baseball season, we did a couple one-off episodes of it. Like, for instance, during the 2015 Miracle Mets run to the World Series. After that, I did a Jets podcast, similarly formatted, called Jets Flight Plan. The next podcast that I did was actually my first podcast on an actual network. It was on the Sports Jam network. It was called On the Flip Side. It was very, very similar in concept to ESPN's First Take, except in radio form. It was a sports debate show with one of my best friends, Kenneth Haas. Now, Kenny and I would always debate prior to doing that podcast, so it just made a right fit for us to do it together. We would do sports picks, football picks for each week during the NFL season. We discussed anything and everything we wanted to in the sports spectrum, and we would debate a lot of it, especially like the Tim Tebow news, because that was around the time that Tim Tebow was on the Jets. So we had a lot to debate since I'm a Jets fan. After that, I went to, I would like to say, my most enriching podcast, which also happened to be on a network. Up till this point, every podcast I had done had been live. I mean, the recorded episodes were available later, but every episode was live. And then came Jesus Cafe Food for Thought, which was a faith-based podcast with another one of my closest friends, Catherine Kalberg. Now, she and I decided we wanted to discuss the faith on a podcast, but we wanted to be able to help others grow in their faith, but we didn't want it to seem like a dull experience. We wanted to make talking about and learning about the faith a very fun and enriching experience, which was very different to a lot of what you heard on the radio in terms of Catholic information, Catholic shows. So that was something that we wanted to do. We did it for a little over a year. We would do movie reviews of new Christian movies. For instance, we did God's Not Dead. We talked about, I can't remember what the other one was, but we talked about another one. And it was a very enriching experience that I loved. And we haven't had the time to really go back and start it back up again. After that, I did a couple of podcasts that never really got up off the ground because of scheduling conflicts. I did Flix Watchers, which was a show based off of the content that was on Netflix, which Netflix on its own has started to go downhill because most of what Netflix wants to put on their streaming platform at this point is just all original content. They don't want to go with the classics that got them popular and stuff that we mentioned on that exact show even. So Netflix itself is just becoming a mess. But the other one I did was called Talk Nerdy to Me. We only did 2 episodes, but it was a podcast with my brother. We were operated off of very different schedules, like almost like opposite schedules. But we did a show for 2 episodes based on the nerd geek spectrum, like Marvel, DC, Walking Dead, all that stuff that is considered nerdy or geeky. And we had the intention of talking about all of it and analyzing it just like the nerds that we are. And it was a fun concept. Both of these things were fun concepts, but just because of time, we couldn't really get it off the ground. So that kind of leads into my next little bit, my announcement to say. And that's to say that I am starting a new podcast. Now, what's different is I don't have a ton of free time anymore because I work 40 plus hours a week. And I have other things. I help lead a Catholic and adult group. And I have other commitments, basically. So, this one I'm doing without a co-host because I don't have a ton of free time. And because I want to do something different. I want something different to do. And this podcast is the epitome of different from me. I mean, every podcast I've done has been with a co-host. And every podcast that I've done has had a sole focus. A lot of them were sports. Sometimes I even had a subdirect of a specific team. One I did on faith, one the nerd spectrum as a whole, and one on movies and entertainment business of Netflix as a whole. This one, it has no focus. It has no co-host. It's literally going to be me for whatever length of time. I'm still working on the length of time and all of that. I'm working on getting my studio set up to do this. But I still have a lot of details. But it's going to be me for whatever length of time talking about whatever I want to talk about. Now, for those who follow me on Twitter, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm twitter.com/TylerMoore614. But a lot of what I've been posting on Twitter lately has been New York Jets rants. As a big New York Jets fan, I'm not very happy about the way that this team has approached this year. I especially went on a very huge rant after the New York Jets lost to the Miami Dolphins earlier this year, calling for our head coach to get fired, talking about the ineptitude of our ownership team of currently Chris Johnson, but also Woody Johnson, who is just as inept at owning a Major League Football team. So, back on topic, that kind of stuff is what is going to be this podcast. It's not going to be on Twitter. It's going to be me speaking out about what I want to talk about. And it's not going to hold any bounds. It'll be religion, politics, sports, the 3 things that you're told don't talk about, I'm going to talk about it. Along with so many other things. Like, I'll talk about TV, movies. Like, I'm sure I'll do at least one on at least High School Musical, the original film. But there's a ton of stuff that I want to talk about. And I could really go in depth talking about. And that's what I plan to do with this. I think it's going to be a really cool concept if I can commit the time to it, which I plan to. I'm still working on a lot of the details that are going to surround it. It will not be on YouTube. That much I can tell you. I'll probably use the site I've used a lot in the past called Shout Engine, but I'm not sure on where exactly if I'll do that. But either way, it's going to be a recorded podcast. I'm still figuring out the length. But my plan is end of January to really start production on it, because I work a restaurant in a mall. So for the next month and a half, I'm not going to have a ton of time. But this is what my plan is. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you will join me. I will have more information as it comes out. And just like what I did with this video, if you want to call it that, it will be completely unscripted. I'll have notes for some of them. I'm going to have a general outline of what I'm going to talk about, because I don't plan on having each episode be one topic, although that could be a possibility depending on how long I decide to make each episode. But I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. I'll have more information out here on YouTube as we get closer to it to kind of promote it. I'll have stuff on my Facebook for those who are friends with me. I'm going to have stuff on my Twitter, which once again, twitter.com/TylerMoore614. I'll probably have some stuff on my Instagram too, which my Instagram will be down below because I do not remember it offhand. I hope you guys will listen and enjoy this. And this might be able to spark a whole, not necessarily debate, but discussion. And discussion is so very necessary in today's world. So, let's do this, guys. I look forward to giving more information as we get there. Thank you, and have a great day.